When I was in Europe, like I was talking about before, I performed when I was there. I would go to in the Netherlands. They have some comedy clubs out there, and I would perform to locals, like Netherlands and Belgium locals, and I would have to. It was a big deal that I was an American because it was 2004. This was like right when Bush was getting reelected,
right.
and so I had to like immediately identify that I was not on that side, you know what I mean? Like, no, guys, I'm cool. Like, I had, you know what I mean? Like, let's talk about this. And the response was overwhelming. You know, like people were just like, oh, thank God, you know, like, can you tell us what the fuck is wrong with you people, you know? And that's what Hicks was I hate to make it sound like I'm doing what Hicks was doing. It's not, but I had that experience unrelated to Bill Hicks, and that makes me feel like I can relate to what it was like for him when it was like even earlier in the process. Comedians didn't really do that, you know, at like in those times.
Yeah, there wasn't like the touring Europe, like comedians didn't really do that.
Not touring Europe
then.
To like shit on America, you know what I mean? Like that didn't happen, not to my knowledge. I mean, I'd love to be proven wrong.
You've also, you know, toured in the U.S. a lot,
right.
and you know, Hicks, you know, it's sort of, and it was something that I think irked him for his whole career, was that he couldn't really make it big in the U.S. and then when he found success overseas, that was great. At least he found people who liked him and understood him, but still not the people who he kind of thought need to hear it the most.
Hicks was like 15 years too early because Hicks missed the internet. That's Hicks's biggest problem, was if he had access to the distribution channels that like for free I have today, you know, like I'm sure in many ways he'd be against things like Facebook. He probably would not look at it like a communications platform so much as an advertising platform, you know, and he would probably have fascinating thoughts on social marketing and social media activities and the digitization of memory and experience, and I would have loved to have heard his perspective on that. But part of the problem he didn't make it was because there's no such thing as making it.
Well, I think it's much harder to find your audience back then, and I mean, the way that he ended up finding them, like, was he was at the Montreal Comedy Festival, and then he was like, wow, these people, apparently people not Americans like my stuff a lot. Who knew? But I mean, if there was YouTube, they would have found him.
Right,
so.
they would have found him, and it would have been easier for him to promote, you know what I mean? Like, it would have been easy. The cost of technology to record his stuff, like he spent a ton of money on this live recording of himself that he dumped out to HBO to try to get, you know, specials there. Like, that's so simple now, you know what I mean?
Right,
like, everyone has like a friend with a friend who has like a 5D camera, and, you know, you can get a soundboard recording from anywhere now, and, you know, you can throw that on like YouTube and it could have 1 million views because you have a friend with a Twitter account, you know what I mean? It's like awesome, and like, or, you know, it makes the front page of Reddit, or it, like, you know, there's like 1 million ways for something to get humongous now that just simply did not exist. They weren't there, and Hicks, I think, would have benefited tremendously because Hicks had the problem that a lot of artists have. Because culturally, I think the culture wasn't advanced enough for him to get through like the moral problems he had, and I think we're further along as a society now a little bit. Hicks couldn't rectify the art and the business at the same time. He couldn't make it like, I can take all the risks I want, like with the art, but still, like, business-wise, you have to minimize those risks. You have to like hone it down, you know? But now it's been sort of proven through things like social networks that like all art really is, that, like, forget the early level, the early entry level, and the more advanced way to look at it is that all art is information.
Right.
It's just information, and all business is just ways of moving information. And Hicks could have thrived in that environment because Hicks was a prolific content creator. He made stuff regularly. He had a definite perspective on stuff that was enthralling and easy to share. And you look at the stuff that's been chopped up of his from years ago, 10 years ago, and like that's popular online now. So just like imagine stuff that was optimized for the internet, you know, like what that could do. And it's really a shame, you know, and you rarely, you hear the compliment of like he's ahead of his time, but you never hear the like, the pity of it,